David Shaw here with another off-the-record story. If you want to learn more about Washington, D.C., come visit my site, offtherecordtours.com. Let's go. The presidency is thrust on Harry Truman in the last months of World War II, when Franklin Roosevelt dies after being president for 12 years. No one knows who Truman is when he takes over, but the country warms to the feisty man from Independence, Missouri, who provides steady leadership in tumultuous times. But death comes twice to the White House in the Truman years. There are two deaths that profoundly affect President Harry Truman. The first is that of his dear friend, Charlie Ross. Harry and Charlie and Bess Wallace, who would later become Mrs. Truman, all went to grade school together, and they graduate together in the class of 1901 in Independence, Missouri. Now, Ross is a successful journalist. He wins a Pulitzer Prize for his work at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and he really doesn't want to be White House press secretary, but he can't say no to his dear friend Harry Truman. One day, Ross is in his office. He had just had a group of reporters in to deny a report that Truman and the British Prime Minister had favored re-invasion of Korea if the UN troops there were unsuccessful. The reporters leave, and the only ones that remain behind is a NBC television crew that is going to record the denial for an evening newscast. When all of a sudden, a cigarette drops from Ross's mouth and he slumps over on his desk. General Graham Wallace, the president's personal physician, comes running from his office in the basement, but it's too late. Death was immediate, and it's up to Dr. Wallace to call the president and tell him his good friend is dead. December 5th, 1952 must have been a day of mixed emotions for President Truman, for it is on that day that his mother-in-law, Madge Gates Wallace, who had been living in the White House since 1945, passes away. Truman probably felt profound sympathy for his wife, Bess, but may have had mixed feelings about the passing of Mother Wallace. You see, Madge Gates Wallace hated Harry Truman. Wallace stood atop the social hierarchy of Independence, Missouri, and she could never accept that this dirt farmer and failed businessman, Harry Truman, was good enough to marry her daughter Bess, even after he was President of the United States. Now, Truman never spoke poorly of Madge, and that's unusual for Truman because he did not take insults lightly. But one time he did slip, and at a campaign event with a bunch of farmers in Iowa, told the following story about the old fellow who, at the funeral of his dear wife, was asked by the undertaker whether he'd mind riding in the car with his mother-in-law on the way to the cemetery. The gentleman said, "Well, I'll do it, but it'll ruin my whole day." Well, I hope you enjoyed that off-the-record story. If you want to learn more about Washington, D.C., things seen and unseen, arrange your tour of your nation's capital at offtherecordtours.com. Until then, I'm David Shaw.